Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to tell you about what might be the best deck coming out of OP-14. It is at least my favorite deck coming out of OP-14. It's Dracule Mihawk, and we even got an English kind of Mihawk in one of the other cards now, which is awesome. Worth noting, I'm already seeing some pretty wildly different builds of Mihawk that have been floating around lately. So I'm going to give you an example here, just a build I found that I liked coming out of Japan. But please be aware of the fact that there are multiple different ways to build this. For instance, the one I'm showing you here doesn't actually play the stage, which honestly makes me a little bit sad because the stage is lovely. You know, you get to draw a card when you play it, and at the end of your turn, if you lead as Mihawk, activate a Don. So it's not in the build I'm showing you. There are plenty of other builds, but I'm showing you a build that I'm quite fond of. Sound like a plan? Excellent. So in terms of the Mihawk leader then, what we've got is mono green. It gets a 1k bump against the slash leader of your opponent. And activate main once per turn, rest one of your cards. Any card will do. And as a side note, the stage here never gets rested normally. So playing out the stage once, having it give you a Don at the end of your turn, and then using it as a thing you rest for your leader skill might actually be a good idea. I'm telling you that not every build plays a stage, but a lot of them do. You have been warned. Seriously, you can find room for the stage if you want it. But the point with Mihawk is you activate free Don if it's a character of a cost of 5 or more, and then you can't play character cards during this turn. But that's fine. Essentially, you activate your Dom and either attach them and attack, or just leave them open for events. Basically, play all your characters before you activate your Don. There, sorted. Get your sequencing right, you're going to be okay. Now, in terms of your characters, obviously you're playing the Perona from OP-12 because you do have a slash attribute leader, and this lets you search for a slash attribute card from the top 5 cards of your deck. And you are overwhelmingly here playing slash attribute cards, so this Perona becomes just an absolute no-brainer. Speaking of absolute no-brainers, we are also playing another 1-cost card, although this time it is one that it was actually brand new in this particular set in OP-14. We got ourselves a playset of Kikanoju, 2-cost counter, and as a slash attribute character, so it's a searchable 2k. But at the end of your turn, activate this character, which is kind of cool. Partly so you can't be attacked, but also because you can use your leader skill, rest this character, because she's a 2k, she's probably in the attacking. And then at the end of your turn, you become active, so your opponent can't go after her. So instead of the stage, you can just use this as essentially a card that can always be rested so that you can activate your leader skill, as an example. Now, we've also got ourselves in this particular build, Kid and Killer. You don't see this in every build, but I like this. 2 cost 2k, and on play, you search a Supernova card, and when your opponent attacks, you can trash it to set a Don active. Really good for using all of your events and things of that nature. But it also searches Supernova, and you're not playing a full Supernova deck here, but you're playing enough Supernova that this is going to put in a bit of a shift. Side note from your old pal Wassy, in this build there are 3 cards from Starter Deck 24. They're not all in every build of Mihawk, but you do tend to see them floating around, especially Law and Beppo, which we'll get to in a minute. At least in the UK, Starter Deck 24 is currently proving not that difficult to get hold of. If you want to play Green Mihawk, and honestly a lot of green decks coming around, might I suggest picking up Starter Deck 24? You don't need to, there are builds that don't play them, but I'm just saying there are some that do, like this one I'm showing you here. And seriously, Lauren Beppo is such a good card, but we'll get there in a minute. Now, we've also got the Roanoa Zora that came around in Premium Booster 02. 2k counter, but it's on a slash character, so again, it's searchable. And it's a blocker that if this character would be rested by your opponent's character's effect, you can rest one of your other characters instead. Side note, it's also a Supernova, so searchable with Kid and Killer. But what we got here is basically a blocker that your opponent cannot rest down to stop you blocking. That's a win. Now we are playing the new Tashigi from the set, and this is a 5-cost 6k. And during your opponent's turn, if this character leaves the field due to an opponent's effect, you can rest one of your cards instead. And I've already shown you there will be cards you can rest here with almost no downside. And activate main, once per turn, rest 2 cards to give this character a 2k bump until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So it essentially ends up being a 5-cost 8k. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a win. Also harder to get off the field. We've got the Bonnie from OP-07, which is another Supernova. 5-cost 6k, and on play, up to one of your opponent's rested character or Don cards doesn't become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. This is a very powerful disruption card. I love this, and this build lets you play it very nicely. Now we got the Perona from OP-14 that we do actually have an English look at. Yay! 5-cost 6k, and on play, up to 2 of your opponent's characters of a cost of 5 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next end phase. I really like this because it stops them attacking, blocking, whatever. And on KO, unless you rest a card and play a green character of a cost of 5 or less from your hand. Any green character. Yeah. Anything I've shown you so far can be played for free using Perona. There's one more actually. It's a Basil Hawkins, also from Starter Deck 24. It's counter plus 2k. Yay, and it's slash attribute, so searchable. And end of your turn, set a Don to active. We got a few ways to activate Don. This is good. We got the Law from OP-13, 6-cost 6k. But if you got 1 or less life, it gains blocker. And on play, you can return one of your characters to your hand, and then play a 5-cost or less from your hand. Rested. But remember, we've got stuff like Kid and Killer, which is a counter plus 2k, but it's got a really nice on-play skill. Play it down, and then bump it so you get the 2k counter back, as an example. Also, this is another Supernova. You can see that this build kind of is digging Supernova, so you can see why Kid and Killer becomes such a fun thing to play here. Now, getting up into your higher end, we've got the new Shanks. 7-cost 9k, and on your turn, when this character is put into rest, like for instance attacking, then rest one of your opponent's characters with an original power of 7k or less. And during your opponent's turn, if it's rested, all of your opponent's characters get minus 1,000 power. Yeah, that's going to be really annoying. It basically gives you an extra 1k counter on every one of your opponent's characters' attacks for their entire turn. This is awesome. We've got the Secret Rare Mihawk, which again is from OP-14. This is a 9-cost 10,000 power and does have the Akira Tagawa alternate art, which is the best artwork in the set. But during your turn, when this character is rested, i.e. when you attack, up to one of your opponent's characters of a cost of 9 or less cannot become rested until the end of their next end phase, i.e. they can't attack, they can't block, they can't use skills that would rest them, whatever. And when your opponent attacks once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand to give your leader or one of your characters a 2k bump for the battle. To put it another way, it turns any card in your hand into a 2k counter. So you can take a card that doesn't have a counter and it becomes a 2k counter. That's absolutely brilliant. And then we have Lauren Beppo. I'm seeing Lauren Beppo pop up in a bunch of Mihawk lists. I am not seeing it pop up in every Mihawk list, and I'm not pretending that it is. but it's in a bunch of them, and it's a card I am extremely fond of. 10 cost 11k, and it is a Supernova, so searchable with Kid and Killer. And on play, rest one of your opponent's characters, and they don't become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. So basically, you get to get a character rested for 2 turns. Then, if your opponent has 2 or more rested characters, your leader gets a 2k bump until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So for your opponent's entire next turn, you've got a 7k leader. And if you can combine that with, say, the Shanks, that gives all of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power, that is going to make your leader very, very hard to get over. Oh, and I should note they had one of the 10 cost Mihawk from OP-14 here. 10 cost 10k, and on play, up to 3 of your opponent's rested leader and character cards don't become active during their next refresh phase. It's another 10 cost, you're only playing it as a one-off, but it's one of those things where drop this at the right time in the right game, and it will win you the game. And then in terms of events, we got Punk Gibson. Punk Gibson is just phenomenal. Came around in OP-01, still a staple in a lot of green decks. It's a 2 cost that gives a 4k counter, and then rests a 4 cost or less of your opponents. And with all the activate Don skills we've got, you're going to have 2 Don a lot. Or as a trigger, it rests any character. Absolutely phenomenal, hard 4 of. And then we've got the more recent, but no less phenomenal, Demon Aura 9 Sword style Asura Blades Drawn Dead Man's Game, that as a main, rest 3 of your Don, to rest 2 of your opponent's characters or Don, or is just a 3k counter. Here's a list as a whole. I like this. This is my favourite Mihawk build I've seen, and it makes me a bit sad we're not playing the stage. But the Supernova package here can be very disruptive. Law and Beppo on the high end, combined with like your Mihawk and your Shanks, is absolutely phenomenal. We get to play 2 different Perona and Tashigi. Yeah, I like playing my favourite characters. What's it to ya? As well as Law and Beppo. And I'm hyped for Mihawk in OP-14. If you want something very different, here is a very different list, which doesn't play nearly as many Supernovas, but it does play that phenomenal 8 cost 8k Mihawk from OP-12, as well as a starter deck 12 Mihawk. Yeah, we're going full Mihawk here, and does play the stage as well. It's another build that looks very good. I don't like it as much as the one I've shown you, which is why I highlighted this one, but it's there anyway. So there we go. That's what you need to know. That's Mihawk in OP-14. It is my favourite leader from OP-14, and I think it's going to be awesome. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.